Hello everyone, George here, and in this follow-up video to working on our mine entrance for the game The Rite, which is a game that my lab is putting out there for 2016 Halloween. Now, if we take a look here, this wood already has seams in it, which kind of produces a little bit of a problem for us. So let's go back to browsing in the bridge and take a look at what we do have available, because I am almost positive a year ago I had already created a texture that was seamless using this same one here, of course using the healing brush. So here we are under textures. We're just scrolling on through trying to find the right one. Once again, some of this material might be a little bit gory. Not terribly gory, but you know, enough to where it might offend a person or two. So just look away, don't continue to watch the video, do something else, alright? So taking a look here, I'm not seeing anything. There's the wood panel there. And there's one that's kind of been, all sorts of things, really. Let's open that up. So what is this? This is woodoldvertical.png. Why don't we just use that? That's kind of interesting. It looks like I put a mold effect on it. Of course, going to be a Fong type because we're dealing with Maya LT, and that's pretty much all we have. Let's call this wooden frame _ M. And inside of that, color, file, wooden frame _ file, because we need to be a little OCD when it comes to naming things. Because if you've ever used namespaces or tried to import things into other files, you'll know you get into a lot of problems very quickly. Alright, so we've got wood old vertical. Let's grab that, throw it on there. Ooh, that's nasty. Let's right click. Grab this and right click and let's do assign existing wood frame. There we go, right there. Looks a little bit better, but obviously we can probably fix that a bit. Let right click, How do I want to handle this? A few ways. Let's go ahead and just do this bit by bit. Right click, grow selection. Grow, and UVs. Let's do an automatic on that. And we're going to do that for each of these really quick. And then we're going to move them around a bit. So grow it out. UVs, let's just make this a little bit easier on ourselves. Break this out. Hit automatic. Automatic. Okay, so we've got that stuff all set up in our UV coordinates. We take a look over here. We'll have assigned all of these to relatively the same spot, which is it's a kind of a bit of a problem. Right click face, let's do from the inner to the outer. We're going to grow the selection on outwards. Grab it and let's just move these next to each other because I do want to kind of conserve UV texture space on this because of how these are automatically assigning things. We've got this sort of alternating back and forth thing going on. That's kind of not helpful. So let's grab these, move them off the side. Although there is little chance at all that you'll ever see some of these elements. Let's grab this, no. Right click, grow, and move this. And if you wanted to take the time, if this was an important enough asset, you could of course unite these, rotate the end pieces, cap them on the sides, and then of course fuse these together a little bit better. But it, you know, this is a piece that's going to be in the scene for literally seconds. There's no reason for me to waste an entire night, hours actually, potentially, at fixing those UVs. Grow. So sometimes what's more important is your time and what you want to do with it. So we can see all those little endpoints right there. Of course, some of these are rotated because of the fact that we rotated those. And this is another one of those cases where it might have been smarter for us to have automatically unwrapped and then duplicated and then rotated, because then they would have all been straight and fine. But what we can do is I'm just going to grab all of these guys because I doubt all of these are going to end up equaling the same UV space. Move that one up a tiny bit. And we're just going to keep moving these together little by little until we get to the top. And the idea is now that these guys, these individuals, now take up a single column as opposed to multiple rows. And because of that, we can now start collapsing these on down. Even though I've done that, the reality is there's way too many of these width-wise to be truly unique. So we're probably going to have to play with that a little bit. But luckily, engines like Unity, which is the one we're using in this particular case, allow you to not need unique UVs. We can, of course, do light baking on a separate set of UVs that will be defined either by ourselves or by the Unity engine itself. There we are. As we can see, it's a little bit too wide for this. So can we get away with maybe just doing this and doing some rotations? No, we can't. That's going to make things look bad. So what we'll probably do is grab all of these faces here and actually just stretch them down to a single space. And although, okay, so things we can do here. All these thin, narrow ones can be much thinner than they are because they're going to be in spaces that there's almost no chance of us seeing. So, if we want to, we can take a few moments and think about how things work out. Let's just do something like this, move this off to the side now. Yes, we're kind of breaking things up now and, maybe not doing... Listen, it's about getting it done sometimes. I've got this weekend to finish these assets and give these to the students so that they have something to do. Because sometimes other people are waiting on you to get stuff done. And if you're a modeler, if you're a texturer, yes, there are groups out there that do all of this work beforehand and then add these elements later on. But it really helps the process if you can kind of scrum it a bit. That is, work together to complete a small segment, but have things somewhat complete for those small segments. You get a lot of knowledge by doing that, actually. You'll learn a lot about how your level's functioning. You'll learn a lot about what does and doesn't work very, very quickly. So, it's important. Why is that all fused together? Or is that because it's the same material? There we go. That's what I wanted. So here we're still running into some slight problems. I really don't want to mess with these guys, but I'm probably going to have to at this point because they're just a little bit too wide. Actually, you know what? They do have quite a bit of a gap between themselves. We could use Maya's automatic layout if we wanted to, but in some cases, it doesn't do what you want it to do. So I'm going to try to conserve what I can by moving these as close together as possible. And then when that fails, we'll start overlapping elements together. I do try to talk during these videos because these ones usually have very small amounts of editing done to them. And that's mainly just so I can produce content faster and put it up here. Let's just squeeze these together ever so slightly. Actually, we can give them probably a little bit more space, something like that. Let's grab these ones, and I'm going to, let's see, these are all the tops, which they should be. We can put the tops, actually at the tops. We can put the bottoms at the bottoms. It looks like I had overlaid some sort of a mold on top of these to make them a little bit more interesting. And these ones we can just throw wherever the hell we want to. Doesn't really matter. I am going to take everything and shrink them down just a tiny bit. Just an ever so slightly bit. Just so that I have them all contained within that space. Come back in here, and we can take a look. That doesn't look half bad for this particular element right here. These still look horrible. But I'm kind of enjoying this. So if we come to the other side, it will be unique. So what we're going to do, we're going to cheat. Oh, we are so going to cheat on this one. We're going to delete this. We're going to come over here. We're going to duplicate these. We're going to bring them off to the other side, and of course that will be the elements over there. But this bit we're going to duplicate as well, bring it on over, and we're going to rotate it around itself. And let's come over to the channel box, do a -180, or 180, it's the same thing really. Move this on in. And the idea here is, we're going to have to mod these up just a tiny bit because that last one over there is a little too wide. But what I really want to do here, so that's there, so let's take this one, right click, face it, and move it in ever so slightly. Yeah, something like that. That's fine. The back and the front are unique. Oh, we're going to want to flip the UVs on these though. So let's grab all of this, go to our split, and let's flip-flop the, no, not panels. Let's go UV editor and flip-flop this vertically. So there we go. Ah, yes. So now we've got more of the mold at the bottom, which is kind of what we'd expect. But more importantly, because we use the UVs on the opposite side, on the front side, things don't look quite as, well, the same as they did before. Now we've got these elements over here. What we're going to do is we could rotate these. Why not? Let's rotate these 180 degrees going this way. 180. That's fine. Move these into place as well. Which is going to be, let's see, move on in. Let's do D and V. All right, so we've moved that pivot there. Let's go over here. So that is this item there and this item there. Hit up. That's both doors, which is not what we wanted. So let's go to Window, Outliner, and take a look at what's going on here. So we've got one group for both doors, which is not good. Open that on up. Take a look here. We've got a couple poly surfaces. Let's grab this one and this one. Edit group. And let's move this group out from that group. And that group still contains those two elements, which is good. And this group still contains those two elements. Now that door is missing some elements, it looks like. Let's take a look. So we have left and right. Here, here, and this. Frame on up. Yeah, just an empty node at this point. So let's nuke it, come over here. Duplicate this one. Not sure what happened. No, that's not what I wanted. Come over here and grab that. Duplicate this element. And since it should be relatively correct, let's just do a 360, enter. And go ahead and move this into place. So that should be centered in the pivot there. Move this, snap to there, roughly. Now we need this to be moved to the other door. And now we should be good. Door left and door right. Looking at our reference material again, it doesn't look like there's any, I mean, not that I can tell because the actual door has either been removed or has fallen down here. But I don't see any way of pulling it open. So, you know, let's just kind of ignore all that at the moment. Come at it and look a little bit over here and see, you can see there's a huge difference between the door, the handles, the hinges, and where they're connected to the doors. So we're going to grab the doors in both cases. Let's just move them forward just a bit to get them to intersect in. Save that out. And now let's start actually naming things a little bit. Edit, delete all by type history, clear things up. Door, left, I don't know, bracing? No, let's just call it iron. We'll go to the other one and call that door left, door right, iron, and let's grab this and do door right, wood, and the other one should be door left, wood. Perfect. Okay, so let's just take a look again, hitting up. Okay, so that's in the wrong location. Let's move this W, D, and V there. Grab this one, hit up on the group, hit W, and that's correct. If we go to the group, we should be able to open that door no problem, and that works just fine. We go to this one, hit up, rotate this door as well, and that opens just fine. Perfect. Save it on out. Edit, delete all by type history. Now let's deal with, well, I mean, technically these doors we can deal with. We can just grab every single element, every single edge, right click, right click, hold down shift at the same time, and do an bevel. Let's hit apply and see what we get. And we do get a very, very, very small change. I mean, it's almost imperceptible in this case. So it's one of those times when you might be questioning whether or not the UVs, not the UVs, the additional vertex count is necessary. But I'm going to go with it because the rounding, it's something you do notice eventually. So let's right click, shift right click, excuse me, and then go to bevel again. That's it, perfect. Close on out of that. Now these have not been beveled, but they are iron. I'm not terribly concerned with them. And that's fine. We'll go with that. Edit, delete all by type history. I close that outliner for no good reason, so let's open it back up. And we've got quite a few elements here that need to be removed. Namely, all of these. Those are our two groups. That's good. We got a frame. That's going to need to be grouped under something. And we have our shading groups as well. Let's just call it frame connection. Good enough. We have the frame. We have all that. We have these elements. We're going to grab all these. Let's go to and let's do a Control G to group them together, and call this the mine entrance. Perfect. So under mine entrance, let's go through now and make sure things have been named. So we have those. We have those. We have the door left and the door right. And under those are also all named properly. Let's grab the whole thing, edit, delete all by type history, edit, modify, freeze those transforms, hit up, hit W, that's perfect, hit up, hit W, that's fine, and let's put the entire mine entrance, that's fine, okay. So these elements need to be changed. Grow these and do some automatic UV stuff again. So split view, and there they are. No, they aren't. That's looking at it from the front. So let's go to panel and UV editor. And here they all are. A little bit messy at the moment, but that's nothing too worrisome. Let's see if we can grab some of these shells and ungrab these ones and move them off to the side. All right, and let's try to at least get these not to be in completely the same space. Let's grab, I don't know, maybe these two and a few of these as well. Just trying to do a little bit of cleanup. This isn't necessarily something I have to do, but it is something that might make my life easier in a future date. And you really should always be thinking about your future self and making their life easier, because at some point you might come back to this model and say, oh, why didn't I do it that way? And let's see, I don't know about bottoms and tops here, so let's just stick them anywhere. Right over there. And these are all the elements here, and you can see they're very much overlapping. Let's stay in shell mode and just see if we can't start moving things about a bit here. Nothing crazy, but I do want to kind of, you know what, screw it. Let's grab everything here and see if we can't use one of Maya's internal tools to lay everything out. So let's do layout. So there we go. That's the layout Maya has decided to choose for this. And you can see we're going to have larger texels on these top components because it's decided to shrink all these ones over here down. That might be a problem, especially since it's just a small number of these. Like these ones right here are incredibly small. It just seems wrong to do it this way. So let's move some of these elements, and we're going to non-uniformly distort them instead of doing what Maya's done here. The intent behind that is to get these guys to share a little bit more space. So let's, yeah, how do I want to do this now? So these are these guys. I literally have almost twice as much in terms of UVs in this case. I'm trying to look at it over here, and I kind of do notice the difference in scale a bit. I mean, we could just do this, and let's see, where's my tool for this? Let's use this now. Where's that tool? UVs, let's grab all of them. Maybe that's Max. Maybe that's 3D Studio Max after all. It's been a while, but every now and then I do remember some of the amazing things I can do in Max. Move this here, and that's kind of close. I think we'll go with this. That's filling up the space a little bit better. We'll grab these ones, move them up there. And at least this way we've got some more, we've got more texels or pixels on this top and bottom segment. And you know, I'm kind of happy with this. Let's go to Edit, delete all by type, History, File, save the scene. We're going to save this as 3. And let's go ahead and export this. Let's hit up, Edit, let's do Modify, Freeze Transforms, just double check things, Outliner. That all looks good. The names of our materials should all be good. File, Save Scene. So let's go ahead and grab this, hit up, go to File, send to Unity, Unity Project, and choose our Unity project. So under the right, I should have, let's see, there's Halloween Final. Let's go to that. And this should be it, select. And then File, Export, no. File, Send to Unity, Selection. And in Send to Unity, we're going to go to our Assets folder, which we're in. We're going to create a new folder. Let's call this Mine Entrance. Let's call this Mine Entrance. Enter, and save that on out. Alright, so now we've exported this thing out, everything's set up properly. All we need to do is open this up in Unity and work with it. So let's go ahead and do that, and let's go to Halloween Final. Alright, so let's create a new scene, and in this new scene let's save it out as under the, let's see, where is it? Mine Entrance. Let's just call it test underscore mine entrance. The idea is that this is a fully working scene that will be giving, I'll be giving one of the students to incorporate into the actual final project. Let's move the game up here for now. So the first thing we need to do is bring in that asset. So let's go to Mine Entrance and drag the Mine Entrance into our inspector. Frame up. I always like to bring in a cube so I get a good sense of the scale. And obviously we're way off on that. So click on the Mine Entrance. The first thing I typically do is increase it by a factor of 10. Because usually from my centimeter to meter conversion, that's the first thing that needs to be done. Hit apply. And we're already looking at something a lot better in terms of scale. And I'll let the student scale it up and down, as they need. Now at the moment we don't have any animations on this object, and really we can do it within this program if we choose. That is one way. The pivots came around, so we can of course open and close them just fine. Now next up, let's take a look at the materials. We have the two materials here. They are brought in as standards, which are good. Another standard. Now the problem though is we have no proper specular sheen on these objects, as you can see, and we have no bump mapping or normal mapping on these objects. Now at the moment, these are actually sharing materials that are probably already used in this project, but because I am making this its own independent thing or project, it's probably a good idea for me to import them in separately, and we can deal with reducing this kind of BS later on. But let's go ahead and import new assets. We're going to go into the Rite textures, and let's find the normal map versions of these. So that's going to be this one, and I believe I also have one already for the rust texture. Let's import the other one. Forgot I can't do more than one at a time. Let's do wood vertical. Now these were going to be probably made inside of mined text, which is an application I happened to get on Steam sale that was pretty cheap, and it does a pretty good job when I'm lazy and don't feel like making really good normal maps inside of ZBrush or other programs. So let's go ahead and change these over to normal maps. That's good. Bumpiness, no, not from grayscale. Apply. Okay, go to the other one. Normal map, not from that. Anisotropic level doesn't need to be high, and that's because we're always going to be looking at this particular dwarf straight on. Let's take a look now at our materials and adjust accordingly. So rusted steel, let's go into the mine entrance and add that to our normal map. And let's go to wood old vertical, or excuse me, material, wood old vertical over here, and drag the normal map into its proper slot. These are a bit dramatic, and partly because of the specular highlight that we're getting on these objects. Really looks a little bit odd. So we're going to have to modify that. So one way is, of course, first going into our materials, checking out the wood old vertical, and probably reducing, see, yeah, a nice little sheen on there, but we don't really want that. So just keeping it down a little bit, keeping the highlight pretty low, should be good. Let's take a look at the rusted one now, and let's see, metallic should be increased quite a bit, and we can kind of get a sense. So here it's a bit bright, and if I wanted to, I could bring this into Photoshop and create a specular channel on my texture for the specular highlights and make that work properly. But what I'm really probably just going to do is lower down that smoothness down pretty far. The idea being that this is pretty old, it's pretty rough, so I shouldn't expect a whole lot showing up there. Maybe a tiny, tiny, tiny bit higher. Yeah, we'll go with that. It brightens some of the colors a bit, and I kind of like that from the side a little bit. Not that we'll ever be looking at it from that angle, but it's good to check. Now we need to rotate these doors open. So what we're going to do is probably attach a script to mine entrance, and mine entrance is going to, well, I'm going to give it access to the door left and door right. We'll remember the start location, and then we'll just apply a swing angle and do that to this object over time. Yeah, let's do that. So let's come over here. Since we're in mine entrance, let's click, right click, create C# script, and let's call this mine entrance. Now I might actually have access to the audio file within my project, and if I do, I'll play that really quick. And I'll try to remember the timing on this to get a better sense of how these doors should open. Mind you, once I provide the script and everything to the other student, they should be able to tweak it however they see fit to make this work. But it's always good to take a look. So SFX00. So in that clip, it's about 5 seconds it takes for the doors to open. And I want to use that number to determine how I'm going to open these doors up. And it's also not an abrupt opening. It's pretty slow. So we're just going to have these doors open up over 5 seconds like this. And then the idea is that during that time, the camera will then begin moving through it. So let's go ahead and reset that. Come to the main camera, and let's turn the skybox off. Let's just do solid color, black, because that's what we're actually going to have in the scene. And let's do that also to the project itself. So here we are. So we have our different elements. We have the left door right here. Let's give that a controller. So that's going to be the left door controller. Let's go to the right door and give that the right door controller. Perfect. Come on down here. Click on this element right here, which is door right, create. Oh, actually, can't I just... Okay, did something wrong. So what we're going to do is, to begin, we're going to follow exactly what it says. We're going to grab this element, we're going to hit create to create an animation clip, and inside of mine entrance, let's call this, what door is this? Door right animation clip. Enter. Let's do the same thing for the left door. Create, and grab that name there, and let's call this door left animation clip. All right, perfect. So we've got both of these guys going on here. We have our, so on this right one, let's add a property. We're going to do the transform, and specifically we're going to want rotation. Same thing on this other side. Add property, transform, rotation. And let's go to this side again. I don't know why I'm bouncing back and forth, but it's what I'm doing. And we're going to, maybe we won't use exactly 5 seconds because I'm trying to see, that feels about right. Let's go with that time segment right there. What is that? Let's just move this ever so slightly to something, a marker, and I can let the other people scale it up later on. All right, so let's open this up, take a look at our Y property here, and we can see we need to rotate this thing. We've got record mode set, so we're at the end. Let's go ahead and open this on up to reset about 130 degrees. Come on back, hit the play button. Okay, come on to this side now. Do the same thing. So what we were up to 3 flat right there, right? So that was, let's see, sample was 60. So we're at frame 180. Let's go up to frame 180 over here. Here we are. Grab these elements, move them to the end, grab rotation in the Y, go to the end and rotate them open as well, somewhere around that. Come back. Oop, wrong direction though, as we can see. And grab Y again and move it out. As we can see here, it's favoring going in the opposite direction. Let's call this -130. There we are. Now in the negative direction, it does what we want. Okay, great. Save. So now that we have those two animation clips, we'll be able to use them right here and right here. We don't want to loop time on these, so let's turn that off. So let's actually delete my other clips. I'm not going to need them. And let's go to the left door controller and the right door controller and move this down here. Perfect. And they stop, and we're done. So I can now hand this off and let my student handle using these within the confines of things opening and closing. Although I will say right now, I'm really not terribly happy with the normal map on these. Granted, the light source is kind of crap at the moment. It's coming from up and above. But I feel like the wood itself is not being expressed enough, and that this moldish type thing is doing a lot more. So let's launch Mintex. I'm thinking I'm going to make a new normal map just for the wood. So the diffuse file, come in here, scroll on down to the bottom, find the wood old vertical. So here we are. We're going to boost this small and tiny detail and really lower the large details. Shape is going to be pushed down a lot, and Z intensity as well. Let's do a 3D view of this object. Let's pick something a little bit more like this object. Let's go to a box, and let's take a look at this. So here I can definitely see the grain in the wood coming forward a lot more than before. So let's go back to the normal map, and let me just, so there we can see the large features really coming through. Z intensity is way too much. So actually I'm wondering, let's invert the shape of this really quick and see what happens. Yeah, I don't think I like that. Let's go backward. Now I don't keep this down a bit. Let's go with that. We'll go with that. So let's come into current. We're going to save this out. Wood frame normal 2. Because parts of the game are actually relying on that, I'm not going to go in and change it directly. Let's come into, not materials, but here, and do an import new asset. Grab, let's do a refresh. Grab this, delete the old one, and assign this to the material instead. Actually, I think I screwed up a little bit, but it's okay. We're going to see how it looks before we make any changes. So let's go ahead and do this. I don't think that looks better. That's for sure. Lighting's really harsh, so I do need to kind of back off a little bit because of that. I think I have my ambient all the way down. There will be lights coming more from a straight on direction, I believe, as opposed, and then in that case things are looking a little bit better. Let's go with that for now. Okay, so with that, what we've done is we've created our own asset right here. So the next thing I'm going to do, now that everything is pretty much set up, this angle now actually is superfluous. There's no reason to work with that because I have an animation that does that, so we might as well remove it, otherwise we might confuse someone in the future. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. And the time to open can be removed as well because it's all now in the animation file. Close all them out. Make sure this saves up. Let's make this a prefab now. So move it into mine entrance down here. I always like to say prefab just to make it absolutely impossible for anyone to see that it's not the prefab. Save this out, and we're going to grab the entire thing, right click, go to export package, and you'll see this sometimes doesn't work. Right click, export package, and it tries to export everything in the world, which always annoys me. So let's just do right click, export package. Nope, still doing it. Sometimes this works amazingly, and other times it just does not work at all. So let's turn off a bunch of junk that should not be coming for the ride. Pretty much all of it, except for mine entrance. So let's do none, because that's going to be faster. And then let's only choose mine entrance. Okay, double checking. Looks good. Export. And under here, we'll go here and do packages. We can see a bunch of other packages I've created and given to the project from the last year. And let's do, what is this? Mine entrance. Enter. Perfect. Now I can share this with the students on our, preferred platform for sharing files and let them get to work. Thanks everyone. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of something different. I of course have a lot more to do, as we saw from my list. So the next video is probably going to be, let's see, I did the door. The trees I think we're going to use the Unity assets from. Might jump into the mining equipment or some of the bodies that are necessary. Those might be interesting. Or actually, I might jump into the sphincter. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. See you next time. Bye.